I was home alone for the first time in weeks. My parents had gone out of town, and I was spending the weekend with my younger brother. But he got sick and had to leave early. So by Friday night, it was just me. The house was quiet, too quiet. Not the kind of silence you hear when everyone's asleep. It was different, like the house was holding its breath. I remember sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the emptiness. The lights felt dimmer than usual, even though nothing had changed. I kept looking over my shoulder, convinced I'd hear someone walking behind me, but there was nothing. Just the hum of the AC and the occasional creak of the house settling. Around 10:30 p.m., I got up to lock the doors. My parents always told me to do that, even when we were all home. Habit, more than anything. But as I made my way through the downstairs, I noticed something strange. The back door, the one that leads to the patio, was already locked. I was sure I hadn't touched it. I never go outside after dark unless I have to. I brushed it off. Maybe I'd locked it earlier and just forgotten. But then I heard it, a soft knock from the second floor. I stopped. My heart dropped. There was no one upstairs. I was the only one home. The knock came again. 3 short taps, not loud, not aggressive, just deliberate. I stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs. I could feel the air change. It got heavier, colder. I didn't want to go up there, but something told me I had to. Halfway up the staircase, the lights flickered just once, a soft pulse like the house had blinked. When I reached the top, everything was still. My brother's room was empty. My parents' room was untouched. I walked past the bathroom and stopped. The door was closed. That wasn't normal. We never close that door unless someone's using it. I reached for the handle. My hand was shaking. I turned it slowly. The door opened with a soft creak. Inside, the mirror above the sink was fogged. Not wet, just fogged, like someone had just taken a hot shower. But the floor was dry. No steam, no sound of water. And then I saw it. In the reflection, a figure standing behind me. I turned around. No one was there, but the door had closed on its own. I ran downstairs and didn't look back. I locked myself in my room, turned on every light, and didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I asked my parents if anything strange had ever happened in that house. My mom looked at me like I'd said something she didn't want to hear. Then she whispered, "We never told you, but that house used to be a funeral home." The next night, I convinced myself it was just my imagination. The house being a former funeral home didn't mean anything. People die in houses all the time. That doesn't make them haunted. I told myself I was being ridiculous, but I still kept all the lights on. Around midnight, my phone died. I went to my parents' room to charge it. As I plugged it in, I noticed something odd. The family photo on their nightstand was face down. I picked it up, confused. Why would they put it that way? When I turned it over, the glass was cracked. Not a small crack, a spiderweb of fractures, like someone had slammed their fist into it. I set it back down, my hands trembling. That's when I heard it again, the knocking. But this time, it wasn't just from upstairs. It was coming from everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the floor. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps, like a heartbeat. I backed out of the room, my back hitting the hallway wall. The temperature dropped so fast my breath fogged in front of me. Down the hall, the bathroom door, the one I'd opened the night before, slowly creaked open. Inside, the mirror was fogged again, but this time there was writing, letters, appearing one by one in the condensation. WELCOMEHOME. I ran. Come back. Straight for the front door, but when I grabbed the handle, it wouldn't turn. The deadbolt was engaged, even though I'd unlocked it hours ago. I fumbled with it, my fingers slipping. Behind me, I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, coming down the stairs. I abandoned the door and sprinted for my room, locked the door, pushed my desk chair under the handle. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The footsteps stopped outside my door. Then came a voice, not loud, not a shout, just a whisper, like someone was standing right next to me. "You've always been home." I pressed my back against the wall, eyes fixed on my bedroom window. The curtains were open, and outside, I could see the streetlight. Next to it stood a figure, the same one from the mirror, a woman in what looked like an old-fashioned dress. Her face was pale, her eyes dark holes. She was staring right at me. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, she was gone. But on my window, written in what looked like finger marks in the condensation, were the words, "I've been waiting." I spent the rest of the night huddled in my closet, lights on, doors locked. When morning came, I called my friend Jake to come over. I couldn't be alone anymore. Jake arrived around 9 a.m. I told him everything. He laughed it off at first, but the look on my face must have convinced him I wasn't joking. We started researching the house's history. What we found changed everything. The house wasn't just any funeral home. It was the site of a fire in 1954 that killed 7 people, all employees of the funeral home. The owner, a woman named Elizabeth Ward, was accused of keeping bodies longer than legally allowed. Some said she was performing experiments. The night of the fire, neighbors reported seeing her standing outside, watching the flames, smiling. Jake found a photo of Elizabeth Ward in an old newspaper clipping. I nearly dropped my phone. It was her, the woman at my window. Jake wanted to leave immediately, but I couldn't. My parents wouldn't be back for 2 more days. I couldn't explain this to them over the phone. They'd think I'd lost my mind. So we stayed, but we made a plan. We'd set up cameras, document everything. If Elizabeth Ward was still here, we'd prove it. That night, Jake slept on the couch downstairs while I stayed in my room. We kept our phones recording, placed at different angles. Around 2 a.m., Jake texted me, "Something's happening down here." I crept downstairs, my phone light shaking in my hand. Jake was standing in the living room, pointing at the wall. Every single family photo, there must have been 20 of them, had been turned face down, not fallen, deliberately turned. Then the temperature plummeted. Our breath came out in clouds. The lights didn't flicker this time. They went out completely. In the darkness, we heard her voice, clear as day, not a whisper anymore. "You shouldn't have looked for me." Jake's phone light swept across the room and landed on the corner. There she was, Elizabeth Ward, standing perfectly still. Her dress was burned at the edges. Her skin looked waxy, like melted candle wax. But her eyes, God, her eyes were alive, full of rage. She took a step forward, then another, not walking, gliding. Jake grabbed my arm. "We need to get out now." We bolted for the door. This time, it opened. We burst outside into the cold night air. Behind us, every window in the house lit up at once, not with regular light, with fire. Orange flames dancing behind the glass, but the house wasn't burning. It was like watching a memory replay itself. We ran to Jake's car. As he fumbled with his keys, I looked back. Elizabeth was standing in the doorway. She raised one hand and pointed at me. Her mouth moved, forming words I couldn't hear. Then she stepped back into the house, and all the lights went out. We drove to Jake's place and didn't look back. I called my parents the next morning, told them there was a gas leak, anything to keep them from going back immediately. When they finally returned, they found nothing wrong. No turned photos, no cracked glass, no messages on mirrors. But I knew better. 3 weeks later, I was at my college dorm when I got a package. No return address. Inside was a single photograph, old, yellowed at the edges. It showed the funeral home from 1954, before the fire. Standing in front was Elizabeth Ward, surrounded by her employees. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. In the background, barely visible in one of the upstairs windows, was a face, my face, staring out. On the back of the photo, written in elegant cursive, were 4 words: "You were always mine. I never went back to that house." My parents sold it 6 months later to a young couple with 2 kids. I wanted to warn them, but what would I say? That the previous owner's ghost claimed I belonged to her, that she showed me proof I'd been there before I was even born. Sometimes, late at night in my dorm, I still hear those 3 knocks, and sometimes, just sometimes, I catch a glimpse of her in my peripheral vision, waiting, watching. She's still waiting for me to come home.